Planning 12 months of social media content may seem like an insanely daunting task, but if we break it up into smaller steps, I promise it's going to become somewhat more manageable. Obviously, planning your social media content in advance has a ton of benefits for your brand. Namely, it takes a lot of day-to-day time sucks off your plate. You're going to be very focused on engaging with your audience rather than creating the content and then feeling that all that energy is drained and you don't have any energy left to go in and reply to comments, engage with your brand, build that community, and do the fun parts of social media, right? Another huge benefit, I'm a social marketing nerd, so this is really important to me, is that it's much more mental health positive to at least have a social plan. You're going to be more effective online, you're going to be online less, and you're going to know that that part of your business marketing is taken care of. So let's get into it. I'm Carolyn. I'm the owner of Bad X Enterprises. If you don't know me yet, one of my biggest things as a social marketing nerd is that your social strategy should be supportive of your mental health. I'm never going to suggest that you do things that are mental health negative for you. If a strategy that I'm suggesting sounds like it's not going to work for your brain, don't do it. But we're going to go through some of the supportive techniques that I use to help clients plan out a big picture content plan for 12 months. Okay? So to start, have tools ready for yourself for this brainstorming session. I use a content planning spreadsheet that I designed. You can get the template in my shop. There'll be a link down in the description, but they're pretty easy to make. They're pretty basic. You do not need anything fancy. You do not need to learn how to use new special software, anything like that. A Sheets document, an Excel spreadsheet, any of that will work great. The best part about this is most people know how to use a spreadsheet. So if you're working with a team or if you're working solo, you're likely not going to have to train people or learn anything new yourself. So in mine, I have an area to capture ideas. When they're coming up, I'm a pen and paper girl. I write them all down in a notebook, and I do that as the ideas come up. I keep notebooks in my purse, in my car, in every room of my house, and all over my office, so that whenever I have an idea, I just write it down. And then when it comes time to content plan, I gather all those notebooks up, whichever ones I can find, and start putting the ideas in here. Often I will skip this step and I'll put ideas directly into the months down here, but we'll talk about that in a second. Because right now we're looking big picture. We're looking whole year. That can start to feel really daunting. The first thing after you've got yourself some tools to help you with the brainstorming process, the first thing you need to do is to think about your client. You need to know specifically who you're talking to. If you haven't sat down and defined who your ideal client is, I highly recommend doing that. I have a few videos about defining your ideal client and how to do that, and those will be linked in the description as well. Check those out first and then come back here. You now know your ideal client, right? I trust you. You totally do. You got this. So you can't plan content if you don't know who you're talking to. So start with knowing your client. Step 2 for our 12-month plan adventure here, start with their needs. What do those people need from you? And start thinking about it in terms of a monthly basis. So this is the general template I use, and I often tweak this for my clients now. The 2023 version will have this included in the template, but for right now, I go in and these are the edits I make. The client needs an experience, my needs, and then theme. Okay, so what we're going to focus on first is your client's needs. What do they need at that given time, or what are they going through in these months? So we're going to do bad axes. Then these are the actual things that I do for my own brand and how I plan this out. So to start, my clients are small business, medium business owners, community organizations, and they have some similarities between them of what they go through every year. So most of my clients spend January doing renew, refresh kind of stuff. My retail clients are typically experiencing a lull during this time where they're kind of, they're thinking about how last year went. They're doing some reflection. February is love month. A lot of clients will see like a little bump up if they're in the gifting space and they live in the US for Valentine's Day. March is spring cleaning for a lot of my clients, finishing up taxes, getting inventory out, moving things around. April is taxes. May, start of summer. Where I live, this is actually something that is really important. My local clients, I live in a very touristy area, so the beginning of summer marks the beginning of the high season for them. I have clients that are all over, so sometimes the season isn't as important to who they're serving, but it's important to them, right? Like they are probably experiencing end of the school year if they have kids or if they have family that have kids. It's something that they are thinking about. All right. Often in July, there's travel. My clients are out of the office, going and doing other things. So that's something that I always note because I don't want to start pushing or promoting something when I know a lot of people are going to be checked out. I really, really support people living lives outside of their work. So knowing kind of like times when those people are going to be doing those sorts of things, it's important because I want to be supportive of that lifestyle. Mid-year. So get these all filled out. I'm going to fast track this so that we don't spend the whole time sitting here typing together, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, so September through December ends up being a really high stress time for a lot of my clients. It's the end of the calendar year. It's a really big time for retail, and it can be a point of stress for people who want to unplug or are unable to within their business. So it's something that I'm really in tune with. I really take into consideration what's happening in Q4 for a lot of my clients. All right. So those are the client needs and experiences that my ideal client is going through. Now I'm going to go in and fill out my needs. I'm a business owner and a human too. I have certain times of the year where there's other things happening that I need to focus on. What are the rhythms of my business? And you should also do this when you're considering your marketing. There are certain times of the year that it's going to make sense for you to offer a certain product or service. Maybe something is only seasonally available one month and you need to really push that. Make those notes in here as you're kind of thinking through what your offerings are, what your needs as a business owner are. We're going to see how some of these start to line up, and then we get to develop the themes. So I'll do that. I'll be back in a second. All right. So now I've populated this with some things that are for myself, either personally or business-wise, that I need to think about in each of these months. 12 months isn't really that long of a time. I've learned this in business. Before I know it, it's always mid-year, and I'm like, what is happening? So having my needs looked at in advance is really, really important to me in planning out content for my clients. This seems really silly, but like you got to focus on you. If you're not planning a marketing strategy that's supportive of your needs, you are not planning an effective marketing strategy. So my needs are a heavy planning month in January. I need to set things up for the year. I need to launch my speaking and class schedule in February, doing some spring cleaning and taxes, similar to my clients. We're both business owners. My kids leave school. Mid-year is really important to me, thinking about kind of the middle portion of the year. How has the first 6 months gone? What can I shift for the next 6 months? Again, similar to my ideal clients. Summer fun. I don't really travel during the summer months that much, but I like to do things, hanging out with the kids, things like that. At August, I like to have contracts prepped or at least inquiries in and starting to get solidified for January, February website builds, because I do not build websites from October onward. So I want to have websites prepped for January, February, so that my clients and I are ready to go early in the next year. Prep for quarter four. I like to travel in the fall. And then I really focus on taking kind of a lighter workload through the end of the year so that I can be cozy, enjoy time with family, and also prep for the next year for my business. Because when it kicks off, January, February, heavy planning and teaching and all that cool stuff. So now you can kind of see how we've planned their year. We've looked at our needs, and now it's time to work backwards. So for me, if I need my website contracts to be, kind of in the almost finalized phase here in August, I need to be talking about websites June and July so that people know, okay, Carolyn's open for websites, or, ooh, yeah, I do want my website redone. I don't need to start talking about that in August because that's when I want stuff to be finishing up. I need to preemptively talk about that. And that's a really good time to do that, talking about it in June, because mid-year, a lot of people that I work with are kind of thinking about like, okay, what can I be doing better? Tweaks to my website. Maybe I'd like a brand new website, and they're looking out at the next year for a rebuild. Perfect time for me to be talking about it and prepping people to be signing the contracts there. This is a great time for me to do holiday marketing planning. It still gives my audience enough time to use these strategies, but it's also timely enough because they're thinking quarter four prep. I'm thinking quarter four prep. A lot of my clients do holiday marketing, so we got to start thinking about that. November, because I want a light workload. It's holiday and end of the year for clients. I'm going to be talking about mindfulness. I'm going to be talking about reflection, analytics, all of these things that are, this isn't super high, heavy stuff. It's, basic, supportive things that I'm not demanding like, hey, sign up for a class, join this, do that. Something that will take away from my business owners who are, on holiday, dealing with a busy time, or they're getting ready for the end of the year. I'm just supporting things that they're already doing, wanting to unplug more at the end of the year, be present with family, things like that. So building in these like natural ways for my content to fit what people are already going through, it's going to make things even more relevant, right, to the ideal client. So if I decided, I am going to talk about doing a complete website overhaul in November, that's not serving anyone well, because typically my clients are going to need their current website to at least get them through that time. It could be supportive because they could need a new website, but it's not serving them in the best way possible. By talking about websites earlier in the year, I'm still allowing space for them to be mindful and for, this is sort of a vetting process too, right? I want to work with business owners that don't want to be plugged in all the time, that want to have time and space to do other things they're passionate about. See how it's kind of starting to make sense? And this is something that I've developed over 7 years, so it definitely comes a little bit easier for me. But I promise, if you start thinking about it in this way of like, what are my clients going through that month? What do they need? Or what is my audience? What are my buyers? What are these people experiencing in that month? You can start to develop content themes based on their needs. So I'm going to go in and fill these out, and then we're going to look briefly at the rest of this document and how I start going in and breaking down the types of content that I create each month based on those themes. All right, I've got my 12-month themes, and I already did this, obviously, for this current year, and I've taken some of the themes that I did this year and I've tweaked them a little bit or adjusted them based on my current services and offerings and openings. This can easily change and shift as you find out like, hey, this service is something I'm doing a lot more of. Maybe I need to move websites up in the year if I'm building more websites or something like that. So going through looking at these 2 months of holiday marketing planning. Last year, that was really, really effective doing 1 month, and I felt like I had so much more content to share at the end of it without it being redundant or beating a dead horse. So I think not this year, but next year, I would love to do 2 months of it. Also highlighting one of my new services, which is BadX Biz Club, and the learning opportunities that are present there. So snippets of classes that I have in Biz Club, things like that. Again, it's supporting things that I want to be doing: speaking, teaching, class schedule, getting ready, end of summer, learning, school's back in session. All of these things are kind of, supporting both, right? What my clients need, what I need, that equals the theme. So after doing all of that, you go in and you start working in this part of the document or even in a notebook. You can easily do this. Write down your theme. So January's is start the year right with marketing planning, and then think about content, right? What pieces of content make sense within that theme? And you don't need every single day a piece of content. And you can create and should create variations on a theme. And when you're working that way and kind of thinking about all right, thematically, I definitely know that it's going to be timely to talk about, refreshing your marketing strategy, planning out more and doing things better, things like that. I'm going to have a lot of things to say and a lot of different methods to say it. So when you're doing the actual content ideas, don't feel like you have to have these fully filled out captions. This was over, a process. When this starts, it looks much more like this, right? Okay. Basic, really short content ideas. And I'm actually going to be going in and deleting some of these because I am posting much less frequently now on social. As part of my mid-year check-in, I was like, hey, don't want to be making this many posts. I want to be focused on YouTube more, which is, hey, that's where we are right now. So this will even get tweaked. And that's okay. When you build out your content plan, you're creating something that is flexible, that is changeable, and it's supportive, right? It changes as your needs change. Okay? Cool. That's how to do a 12-month social plan. That's how to start developing your content a year in advance. And it can change and should change as your business grows, as your services flip, any of that. But at least having something is going to give you such a better workflow when it comes to managing your marketing and a much better mindset when it comes to involving your clients' needs in your strategy. When you're focused on who you're serving, your content gets so much better. All right? All right. Tell me if you found this helpful, overwhelming, problematic. Drop a comment below. And remember that link for this template and a bunch of other resources is in the description. I would also love to have you join BadX Biz Club. We talk about this sort of thing in depth regularly. You can be in a space, in a community with other supportive business owners who love being mindful with their marketing. They have so many great tips. I learn from them every day. Would love to have you there. Right. Cool. Good. All right. Till next time, stay BadX.